buildings, bridges, and the underground structures such as tunnels, subways, buildings, mines, and more.
Landscape architect has to meet the client engineers and architects to understand the requirements of the project. Also in this stage, landscape architect will prepare site plans, specifications and cost estimates for the materials used in the landscape design.
During this stage, the interior designer prepares the conceptual sketch proposal of the interior based on the architect's plan. They must consider factors such as Balinese interior with adequate open spaces, and this is then presented to the client and necessary changes are made accordingly. And adequate natural lighting and indoor water feature which has to be discussed with the architect. Eco-friendly features like lighting, furnishing material which has to be discussed with the green specialist, and specification of color scheme and finishing of each room.
On design development stages, every consultant will have to sit down together and have a consultant meeting. This is for our understanding on our project. Next, architects have to prepare architectural drawing, which is the technical drawing of a building that falls within the definition of the architecture. This is for the submission for the building department to obtain the building approval. The document we need to submit together is the drawing and also the building form.
Not only architects have to submit drawing, civil and structural engineers also have to. Civil and structural engineers have to produce civil and structural drawings. It is a plan or a set of plans for how a building or other structure will be built. They are primarily concerned with the load-carrying members of a structure. They outline the size and types of materials to be used, as well as the general demands for connections. The drawings communicate the design of the building structure to the building authority to review. In our scenario, the civil and structural drawing have to include the foundation plans and details, framing plans and details, wall section, which is retaining wall, column and beam details, and also other plans, sections, details, and schedule necessary to describe the structural components of the bungalow.
As a mechanical and electrical engineer, I have to prepare electrical and sanitary drawings for the architect.
Once we got the building approval, the architect will have to prepare the project planning and the implementation schedule, which is the RIBA plan of work. It helps to organize the process of briefing, designing, constructing, maintaining, operating and using building project into a number of key stages.
Based on the architectural drawing, the interior designer prepares scale floor plan of the interior of every room and space, specifying the details. They prepare elevation drawings and documents of items to purchase or use such as furniture, lighting, sanitary ware decor, etc. The considerations are to ensure that the plan follows UBBL codes, the feature must fulfill GBI criteria, and the plan must be within the budget. All these prepared documents are discussed with the QS to get a preliminary costing. This information and documents are presented to client for approval. Any issues or changes regarding the plan are done at this stage.
Landscape architect will analyze environmental reports on drainage and land conditions such as slopes. He will also prepare graphic representations of plan using computer aided design and drafting. Landscape architect will select appropriate materials used in landscape design such as brick, timber, glass, and metal.
Architect and green building consultant will discuss about the selection of sustainable structural systems. Green building consultant will mainly giving their opinion to the architect rather than designing the structure. Green building consultant will analyze the lifespan of the components and materials used in bungalow to make sure it can last for a long time. Green building consultant will practice using eco-friendly resources throughout the construction after clients move in. Green building consultant will design of landscape to minimize the electricity consumption. Green building consultant takes the finalized design from the architect and analyze it. Green Building Consultant will apply Green Building Index assessment to prove the design assessment. Make payment of required registration fee to GBI during application.
Next, the interior designer purchases or retains all necessary items like furniture, decor, fixtures, etc. In many cases, it may have to be shipped from overseas since it is Balinese style, so they must order beforehand.
Contract documentation. The quantity surveyor and architect will organize the calling of tenders. The selection of a contractor will begin after the completion of when the quantity surveyor produces the bill of quantities and when the architect finishes the construction and detailed drawings. The architect will then go through a process called tendering by preparing tender invitations. Contract implementation and management. The contractor and client will then sign the building contract with the hired contractor under the supervision of the architect. The contractor will then hire subcontractors and will have agreements between them which are called the contractor-subcontractor agreement.
A contractor and subcontractor are encouraged to develop health and safety manual to protect their safety. Meanwhile, a site safety supervisor will be appointed by main contractor on work site.
The contractor will then provide appropriate personal protective equipment for their workers to utilize on site and ensure the workers' safety. Some of the safety precautions that are needed are to build protective hoarding around the bungalow. This will act as a barrier to prevent the public from trespassing into the site. Secondly, constructors should make arrangements to prevent landslides, sinkholes, flooding, and other unstable ground conditions. Lastly, the use of scaffolds is needed because they have handrails on the top of the platform. This provides a flat balanced working platform for the workers. The earthwork contractor is responsible for conducting the site clearance, grading, erosion control, and excavation. The green building consultant will then have regular site visits to inspect the site clearing. This will ensure the site clearance does not affect much to the environment. The building contractor is responsible in building of structures. This includes concrete work, electrical work, carpentry, roofing, and floor work. The civil and structural engineer will then meet up with the contractor to coordinate on-site issues. The civil and structural engineer will have interval site visits to ensure that the works are being executed in accordance with the building contract. The contractor will then give out interim claims to the architect. This usually happens for every 20% of the work done for the project. The contractor and the architect will then meet up. The architect will then approve of the interim claims sent by the contractor and will advise the client to pay the contractor for the following work done.
The interior designer is on site during the interior planning implementation stage. They ensure proper installation and plan implementation of the interior features and finishing. They coordinate with contractor regarding site issues and they manage the plan execution process.
On final completion stages, an architect is done to prepare a final account for the contract and issuing a final certificate of payment to the contractor. After everything is done, the architect will issue the CCC in order to prove the house is safe and fit for occupation.
As a conclusion, issues regarding sloping land were solved with well-planned and constructed retaining wall. Next, approval from town planner and authority was tedious due to the bungalow's large built-up area and height. Furthermore, safety of the construction workers were ensured. Fittings of indoor water feature have to be considered by the architect and civil and structural engineer.
The overall planning had to be sustainable and eco-friendly to attain goal rating GBI. Landscaping and interiors had to also be eco-friendly and in the theme of Balinese interiors. Excavating the land for foundation while considering the existing underground pipeline and system. QS to keep construction costs within the budget.